You can watch Brighton versus Arsenal and Watford versus Chelsea on Now TV for just €10. So what's stopping you? Going shopping again? You're already on first name basis with the sales assistant. A family party? Your Aunt Mary has seen you 4 times this week already. Don't let anything get in your way. To treat yourself to a Now TV Sky Sports Day Pass and watch the games that matter to you for just €10, search Now TV Football today. Content streamed via internet. Full terms at nowtv.com.
The journey to spirituality, enlightenment, and a higher level of consciousness is often a long, lonely, introspective journey, right? When we're talking about what it means to reconnect with spirit, to awaken the parts of ourselves that have long been buried deep within us, is not an easy task. And it really requires a commitment and a certain level of dedication to kind of dig through the things that we might have buried for whatever reason. And attaining that higher level of consciousness oftentimes requires us to let go of our old selves so that our new selves can emerge. It's almost a reawakening, a rebirth of sorts. And on this week's episode of the Empowerment Hour podcast, I'm talking about spirituality. We're talking about enlightenment with my special guest, Anne-Marie-Martinez. And she is someone who is very much connected with her spirituality. She has identified herself as the conscious connector. And so everything that she does, her work in the media, her work in the public, is very much aligned with her spiritual base. And I invited her to be a guest this week because I think that her story is unique in that this is a woman who in her early 20s or early 30s pretty much was living the life. She was at the peak of her career. She, was commanding the big salary, lived in a beautiful apartment, had the car, was really jet setting across, the world. And at the peak of her career, she still wasn't happy. And she realized that there was something missing. And so the conversation that we had was really about that moment and that turning point in her life and how she gave everything up and really started to journey into herself. And so it is a riveting conversation. Definitely one for anyone who finds themselves in a similar situation. So sit tight, maybe go grab yourself, something to drink, maybe a coffee, a tea, a glass of wine, whatever your beverage of choice is. But when I come back, I will be joined by my guest, Anne-Marie-Martinez. You are tuned in to the Empowerment Hour podcast, your digital global classroom where individuals across all ages, backgrounds, and career levels tune in for guidance and motivation to live life on their own terms. It's where inspiring thought leaders, modern-day influencers, and social game changers come to discuss their own personal journeys and have real conversations about the journey to success. I am your host, Nancy Ruffin, and every week I bring you raw and unfiltered conversations about the obstacles we all encounter, the times we felt like giving up, and the things that keep us forging forward. It's where passion and purpose intersect. So if you're ready to start living on purpose, then you're in the right place. Let's get started. Welcome back to another episode of the Empowerment Hour podcast. You know who it is. It is your girl, Nancy Ruffin. And this week I have the pleasure of joining me on the show, a good friend of mine who is always in and out. This woman is a phenomenal, just global, international diva, and I can never catch up with her. So the fact that she even has time to be with us on this podcast tonight is a huge win. So without any further ado, please join me in welcoming my good friend, Anne-Marie-Martinez.
Hey, thank
Hey, honey.
you.
How are you, baby?
Oh, I'm so good and I'm so happy to be here. I've been waiting the past few weeks to get on this show and I'm so happy that we're here today.
Yes, well, because you're a jet setter, darling. And, just to give you guys a little background on Anne Marie, I'm going to read a little bit of her bio, but I mean, her bio is extensive and we're going to let her go into it. But just a brief summary of who she is, what she does. She is a global lifestyle and branding strategist. What does that mean exactly? She is responsible for basically creating the public image for some, of the most notable celebrities and organizations across not only the United States, but across the globe. She lives in Dubai for, a good portion of her time. She's always traveling, to Asia, Africa, the Middle East. This is a real life diva. But Anne Marie, I'm going to let you kind of in your own words let the listeners know more about what it is that you do exactly as a lifestyle and branding strategist.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for that really nice intro. And as much as you say jet setter, it makes me laugh because I definitely don't see it that way. I do believe, and I have believed for a really long time, that it is my job or my duty to help people get to the next level and help them bring their dreams to life or help them develop an image and a brand that allows them to share their story and their message and to do that in a way where they can be seen and heard by many without compromising reputation and really respecting them as an individual. And I think that throughout my career, the reason I've been so successful or have had the opportunity to work with the people and the brands that I have is because of the integrity and the authenticity of who I am and what I bring to the table, and also the people I select to work with, because I think that there has to be a value system and alignment between myself and the other person or the brand so that we can really bring our best work to light.
You said two key things that immediately stuck out to me. One, you said integrity, right? You kind of pursue this work with that intention, right? That everything that you do is with the highest integrity. And then the other thing that you said was that you're mindful, and you didn't use the word mindful, but in summary, that's what you said. You're mindful of the partnerships that you make, of the people that you're working with, and you're ensuring that there is an alignment of values, so that it can push that partnership forward. Now, you're in the entertainment industry, so how do you? It's almost like when we see the word integrity and entertainment, it's almost like an oxymoron. How do you maintain integrity in that kind of industry?
Yeah, it hasn't been easy. I mean, I have to say that when I started my business 10 years ago, I had spoken about the vision that I had, and people looked at me like I was crazy or they didn't get it. They kept saying to me, well, you're just going to put people on the red carpet, right? Or you're just going to go out there and, talk about them on TV, right? Or and nobody really understood what it was that I was looking to accomplish, what my goals and objectives were with helping people and working with brands and companies, because they thought that I was going to be or do things that would compromise, my reputation and my integrity. And I felt like, well, no, guys, it doesn't matter if I'm going to lose this opportunity, which I've lost many, by the way, because of it. But I was never willing to sell myself out. And it's almost like the music industry, right? Where people, they're given an opportunity to sing, and you're going to be able to sing amongst all these people, but it comes with a price. And sometimes that price means you have to give something up, and giving something up usually means yourself. So to say that, how have I done it, in the entertainment industry? How have I done it, with the challenges or some of the things that I've been approached to do? It's been tough, and there's a lot of times that I had to eat some shit, and excuse my French, but
well, look, we've grown folk here. You could say shit, you could say whatever words come to mind. Like, just feel free to be yourself. That's what we're doing here.
I think that, I had to eat a lot of shit, but I ate the shit tastefully, because I ate it knowing that I had my dignity. And that for me doesn't come with a price. And there were many times where not only were there missed opportunities, but there were times I was taken advantage of, or ideas were stolen, or there were men that were getting paid more money than me, but, purely because they were men, or men that promised opportunities, but really were more interested in getting into my pants. So I feel like, you know what, if I can look at myself in the mirror at night and I can go to sleep with a clear head, that means more to me than anything. And I'd rather know that I can create and build something on my own based on my values and my integrity than to have known that I gave something up in exchange for that.
And you've had a pretty long career doing this. You've been doing this, for over 10 years, over 15 years, right?
Yeah. Straight out of high school, I went to work in nightlife, and I worked for a promoter in New York named John Gungi Rivera when I was 18 years old.
I remember Gungi's parties.
You remember him, right? Exactly.
Yes.
So I thought I was like the hottest shit because I worked for Gungi. Now that I think about it, I laugh because I'm like, oh God. But, I was 18.
Well, the thing back then, he was the it promoter. Like, you wanted to be in his clubs, at his parties. Yeah, and if you weren't there, you were like a nobody. So, yeah, that was a big deal back then.
Exactly. And, when I went to work for him, I didn't work at the club. I actually worked in the office. So I learned all about the office dynamic and all of the stuff that went on the admin side, as far as like promotions and marketing and talking to VIPs before we had cell phones and social media. So it was my job to get people to go to the club based on me cold calling. They throw a stack of like 50 pages on my desk with 100 names on each sheet, and I'd have to call, hi, this is Anne-Marie from Prestige Productions. Hi, this is Anne-Marie from Prestige Productions. And I was so good at it. Like my return rate of the amount of people that were showing up to the party, the success on it was like, whoa. So finally Gungi's like, listen, I want you to start dealing with my VIPs. And then it turned into, I want you to come to the club and start meeting these people. Wow. And from there, it just started shooting up. He's like, okay, now we're doing concerts. I want you to work with the celebrities backstage. So I was doing that at 18, 19, 20 years old.
And at this time, you were living in Queens, right?
I lived in Queens. I was going to John Jay College. I would go to class from 8 in the morning until 11:30 a.m. And then I would run from 59th Street and 10th Avenue to 14th and 7th to go to work at the office until 10 o'clock at night.
When we talk about nightlife, and especially back then, because I was a big party girl too, and I was in the clubs every week. And just like you, I would go to school and come home, get ready for that party, and like literally break night, go to work the next day. How did you maintain your sanity during that time? Because it was, that party crowd can get intense. It can make you, and you've been able to maintain your integrity throughout your career. But as a young girl, 18, 19 years old, you're becoming like the it girl, right? Because now he's putting you in these positions, to be with these celebrities. How did you navigate through all of that at such a young age?
Well, I think that, my upbringing, right, growing up in Queens, and I say this, I share this story when I know that you'll understand, going to school with gangs and guns, there was a different type of like attitude, a different type of, being a New Yorker and growing up the way I did is like, I was too cool for school. Like there was nothing that impressed me. And as I did this work, I felt like I just always had to, maintain a certain type of persona, like have this type of respect. So I think at a very young age, I was already walking around like a boss.
Right. Were there ever times where you felt like you didn't want to do it anymore?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, this was the beginning of my career. I mean, that was me dabbling in more of the Latino American sector, me being half Colombian and identifying more with my Latin side. But then I went off to work for promoters that were more of like the Italian from Brooklyn and hip hop type of feel, who were like working with the record label. So I stepped into a whole other genre. So constantly being this chameleon and this new girl that would step up into the space. After leaving Gungi, I then worked for a guy named Chris Rita, who owns the Club Griffin in the Meatpacking District, owns the Gansevoort Market. he's done quite a few things since that time, but I worked for him as a promoter, and I had bottle service clients, and I'd be traveling with him between Vegas and Miami, and we'd be doing huge parties. And I was doing that in my early 20s at this point. My mom used to be like, get a real job. What are you doing? So, I mean, I was doing this work, and I was always struggling in and out, because I would say to myself, okay, I'm getting older. I can't do this. This is me telling you I'm getting older at 24, 26 years old. I'm now going to be 41 in March. And I'd say I needed a break, or I wanted to go back and have some more stability, or go work in an industry that was a little bit more corporate, which I did from 18. I mean, even working in nightlife, I went to work at Morgan Stanley. I went to work at Credit Suisse. I went to work these corporate jobs, landing these good paying salary jobs at a young age that I just was not interested in. I was around all these bankers, and I was always still promoting an after work party, or getting the bankers to come hang out where I was. So still being that party girl, and, hostess with the mostest. And it was always a back and forth struggle with me wanting to be more, quote unquote, serious, as my mom would put it, to me, than going out there and doing what I enjoyed, and working with people.
Yeah, because that corporate life, it doesn't even suit your personality. I mean, like, knowing you wouldn't survive.
And I'm not good at it either.
It's like, it would be like caging up a bird. You know that they're not meant to be caged. They're meant, to be out in the world, flying and, spreading their wings. And I think that that's what you're meant to do.
Yeah.
And you just got back from Art Basel, right?
Yeah, I was in Miami for Art Basel. I work with a variety of clients, whether in the luxury hospitality space or individuals, personalities, athletes, CEOs, in developing brands, whether it's the product or the individual. And this particular Art Basel work I was doing was with an artist named Manzel Bowman. Kid is so talented. He's producing art that's very futuristic and esoteric, and he's got a vision, and he's working with some of the biggest names in the music industry, but didn't have someone to come kind of take him along and guide him. And I said, let's do this. And we went to Basel, and we did an amazing cocktail event with 80 people in a 4,000 square foot penthouse overlooking all of Miami. We did a bunch of red carpet work, raising that profile, getting him into Harper's Bazaar Arabia, just like doing it. And I tell you, it feels so enriching and fulfilling to know that I could be with someone who believes in what I can do for them, and me believe in them, and reciprocate that, and go to that town by storm and really create a name for him in those 10 days of activations that were going on down there. It was really, really nice.
And it's interesting that you say that you find purpose in being able to work with someone like that, and them also seeing the value that you bring, because I know that you call yourself the conscious connector, right? That is, I think, part of your brand. What does that exactly mean? And this is an extension of, your AMI brand, or is it just a part of who you are?
Just a part of who I am, Nancy. Like, I've always done everything with intention. I've always been really conscious about, who I'm mixing with, and how I can bring people together, or how I can help somebody get to the next level. And I feel like it's not only in just, conscious connecting, but it's also, integrating that into everything that I do, the conscious consulting, conscious living, like how self-aware are we, our surroundings, what we're putting into our mouth and our brains, what we're feeding ourselves, who we're spending time with. So it's definitely part of the lifestyle and the person that I am, the whole conscious connector, because I'm not going to connect or do anything with anyone in vain. I'm going to make sure that when I'm doing that and I'm making a connection, I'm working with someone that it's done for its highest good.
Yeah, because you're someone, I think one of the reasons you and I connected so well and so easily is because of we're aligned in that way as far as spirituality and making sure that what we're putting out into the world is for like the greater good. I think that both of us that the work that we do really isn't for us. I mean, we enjoy it, of course, but it really is to shift the vibration of the universe, to make things better, so that, you know, our legacy, what we leave behind is something better than what it was when we initially started. And
Absolutely.
so my question for you is, where did your desire, I guess, for enlightenment and this passion that you have for spirituality come from? Is this something that you always had, or was there like a turning point in your life that was like, you know what, I think I need to start looking within. I need to reevaluate my life somehow? Because for me, it was a turning point. I wasn't always this spiritual.
Yeah, well, just to add to the first, you know, you and I connecting and how we connected and so on, that you're absolutely right. There was an automatic connection. I think Kiana knew that when she made that introduction, because,
Right.
you know, it's difficult, and maybe, you know, not as much today, but we did meet, you know, over 2 years ago, but seeing your kind, or seeing your fellow sister, your awakened being, another person who gets it, where you can have the conversation as sophisticated as we did with the language and the words and the communication, because not everybody speaks that language.
Right.
But as far as like the spirituality, I feel like growing up, I grew up very Catholic, and my mom was very spiritual, and she had me going to retreats and singing in the choir and at church at a young age. And I always felt like I had other beings and guides with me, but I didn't understand them. I didn't understand the forces within me or around me. And I think that at 21, I had a very scary dream that, obviously, with what I know today, I believe was very real, where a group of us, and I'm talking about this for the first time, so thank you for letting me share this. Mm-hmm. In the dream, the heavens or the skies were opening or cracking open, but there was a beam of light so strong, and we were all on our hands and knees, with our hands in the air and on our knees, looking up, crying uncontrollably. And I feel like that was a moment of God coming into my life, because I think I was a little wild at 21, mm-hmm. or my mom didn't know what I was doing. I don't even know what I was doing now either. I think I've blocked some of those times out of my head, but I remember it feeling so real, and it scared the shit out of me. And I continued to live my little reckless life, but being, you know, Latin, and in the Latin community, as you know, you grow up around a lot of intuitives and clairvoyants, and I always had a lot of these people stepping into my life with a message, like almost like the alchemist, you know, guides and angels. And it wasn't until I was about 32, 33, that I moved to Turks and Caicos in the Caribbean, that I started doing my healing work. And I started doing this healing work and doing Reiki and getting very into that side of the healing and spirituality, which then began to evolve until finally at 30, from 40, 37, 36, 37, 2015, I called my mom up. I was living in Dubai. And I said, Mom, I'm not feeling fulfilled. I feel like I need purpose. I don't have purpose. What do you mean? I said, this can't be it for me, Mom. This can't be it. Like, it doesn't feel right. And that all happened from me waking up one day, or going to work one night, rather. You know, we owned a club called Cavalli Club. I worked for these investment companies running the brands, and I would have to go to the club at night, and I would get dressed up, and, you know, in these really beautiful gowns, and I got all dressed up. And when I was walking out the door, I just got on my knees and I was crying, saying, how much longer do I have to do this, God? It feels very dark. How much longer? Please, I don't want to do this any longer. And I went to work that night. And when I got to work, there was a man that was with a group that came to see me. And the man came in my ear and he said, what are you doing here? You know you don't belong here.
Wow.
And I was like,
talk about messenger.
Yeah.
So
I end up quitting my job. And at this point of my career, I had really gotten to a place of stability and what I thought the peak of my career and success. You know, I was on red carpets, I was on television, I was doing all the things that I had dreamed of doing, but when I got there, it just didn't feel right. So I gave up. I think I might have shared this story with you too at the day we met. I ended up giving all my clothes away to church. I had a beautiful luxury apartment. I had an image allowance. I had a beautiful car. I finally had everything to keep me to say, okay, I have everything I need, quote unquote. And I wasn't happy.
Yeah, that's how it happens, man. You know, that we set up a picture in our heads of what we believe is going to make us happy. And then when we, like you were there, you had everything that you ever thought you would need to make you happy, but that was something that was missing. And that is the perfect example of it doesn't matter the tangible things that you have, the materialistic things you have. There's always, if that thing within is lacking, it doesn't matter what's happening on the outside. All of it is meaningless. Nothing matters.
Exactly. And when I gave everything up, I had people in Dubai that knew me from that whole high life and, you know, the glam and, you know, the expensive spas, like shit that I didn't really grow up doing, but then I did it. And I kind of was like, okay, well, I deserve it. But I was also working my ass off. Like, I had like 18 months of my life had passed by. The first 18 months I was in Dubai, and I didn't even realize that time had gone by. I had stacks of magazines I was in and all of this press that I would look at in my living room, and I'd be like, you know, like I would look at it like, okay, you did this, but I would be sitting there to touch a piece of like a magazine on a sofa that I never got to sit on. I'll never forget putting the last chandelier up in my apartment. And when I sat on the sofa and I looked up and I went, you'll be out of here soon. And I fucking knew it. I fucking knew it. And then to give everything up and then go on this search and then come to LA and then walk into Agape, which is Reverend Michael Beckwith from the
Yes.
Girl, I walked in there and I was hysterical. This woman grabbed me and I just cried on this woman's chest, Reverend Carolyn, and I cried and cried and cried and cried and cried. I didn't know her from Adam, and I just cried and I spoke to her about where I had been and what had happened and where I was, and she shared a very similar story. And I'll tell you, that just felt for me, I felt at Agape like I was home. I felt like when they say what does home feel like or what's home, I've never really understood that until I've been around my spiritual soul tribe, when I've been at these non-denominational churches, when I'm doing my transformational work. That's when I feel like I'm home.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. It's where you feel the most at peace. Right. It's where you feel the most connected, like with yourself and with your surroundings. It's like, for me anyway, it's almost like a direct line to like that higher being, to, you know, to God or that thing that, you know, is the overarching guide in our lives.
Yeah. Yeah. And I find too that it's so easy sometimes to get off the path and then get distracted, because before I got to Dubai, I was heavily into my meditation and my church as well, meaning, you know, these sanctuaries. And I remember getting to Dubai and saying, don't forget that this is what feeds you. Don't get caught up in this world. Don't forget this is what feeds you. Don't get caught up in this world. And sure enough, I got caught up and I went into the whirlwind until boom, 18 months later, I wake up and I'm like, what the fuck? What happened to me? What, did I fall asleep? Was this a dream?
I think it's all part of our journey. You know, everything that and you know this, I am speaking to the choir here, but, you know, everything that we do, every experience, every interaction, every relationship is really a teacher, and it's a guide for who we're supposed to become. I mean, and you wouldn't be who you are this very moment had you not had that experience. You needed to go there.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And I think too that, you know, every time I've said I wanted to do a certain something and I haven't been completely comfortable with doing it or not feel ready, is because I haven't been ready to write that portion, because it hasn't happened yet.
Mm-hmm.
So you know, they always say too, like when the student is ready, the teacher will appear, or continue preparing, and then the opportunity will present itself and you'll be ready. And it's so true.
Yes, it is. And it's also is like what you are seeking is also seeking you.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah, that's right. We could be throwing quotes all day.
This is what alignment is like, though.
Yeah.
You know, people don't get it, but it is like once you're there, it is like a different language that you speak, you know, and I love to speak, you know, with you, with people like you know, people that just get it. It's almost like you found your tribe. You don't have to explain it.
Yes.
You don't have to, you know, try to convince people about what it is. It's like you're there, you get it, and we know. So you just finish what you're going to say, and then I want to ask you about something else.
No, and that I want to add to that part too about the whole tribe thing, because I used to say that I felt disconnected from my home and from the people I grew up with, or I felt like we didn't, you know, they didn't know me anymore. But then I realized, and that the people that did know me, or that I did, you know, did connect with, were the people that I developed these relationships with abroad. But now, being even more evolved and more into my spirituality, I realized that they were all the same friends, but in different contexts in different countries. And it all had to do with the people that I connected with on a spiritual level, that were nomadic like I was, who listened without judgment, who were supportive even when they were not even there, but they were on the sidelines. I felt like I finally got that part. That part took me a really long time to get, because I was holding on to relationships thinking that I had to hold on to them to show that I was still a person of loyalty and somebody that, you know, really honored the relationship. But, you know, not realizing too that I had outgrown a lot of them. I was holding on to things that no longer served me. Then they were pulling me back or keeping me from growing.
Yes, and we all do that. But I think, see, that is also part of our evolution, because we're trying to hold on to what is familiar, because we're now navigating these waters that are new to us, right? And that is scary. Even as we go on our own spiritual journeys, it requires a lot from yourself, you know, to really look within and really see yourself for who you were created to be, not for who the world told you you're supposed to be, not for who your family told you you're supposed to be,
or who your friends think you that you still are, that you no longer are.
Yeah,
that was a big one for me too. The family one, and forget the society one, I don't pay attention to, but the family one and the friend one has been a difficult one for me, because, you know, my family's now getting it and like leaving me to be who I am, you know, and just letting that, where this time around with a lot of friendships, there were the demise or the death of certain friendships. You know, they say a season, a reason, a season, and a lifetime. And I really let that go this year as well, back in September, and so freely, without judgment, where I just felt like that no longer serves me, and it's okay. And you can continue to put me in that box, but you won't put me in that box in my presence, because that's not who I am. So you can continue to live in that space, but I no longer live there.
Yep. Yes. That's growth too. You know, not being tied to those false narratives. I think that we tell ourselves a bunch of lies, you know, just because we're afraid to really step into and I think own our power, because we're powerful beings. You know, if we really do the healing work and the internal work, I mean, we can really write our future, and we can really attain that true level of happiness, not the happiness that comes from things, but the happiness that comes from just being, from being alive, from being in nature, for being of service, right? Those are the things, at least for me, when I'm, you know, old and gray and I'm on my deathbed, I want to be able to look back on my life and say, you know what? I contributed to the world, to the betterment of the world. Because the money, all the material stuff, nobody remembers that. Right? No one remembers the things that you bought them or any of that stuff. It's just how you make them feel. You know, how did you give of yourself? You know, like what impact did you make? That's what you're remembered for.
Yeah. And I think too that like that becomes confusing too when you become spiritually awakened or evolved or start doing, you know, becoming more developed, because then you start thinking like, am I supposed to be doing this? Like in 2015, I didn't want to go back to work. I was awakened in that space. And I thought, I should be a life coach. I should be a healer. I'm healing basic. You know what I'm saying? Like, I know how to read the cards. I know how to do all these things that I don't talk about, but I also know how to put together a red carpet event. I know how to go in front of the camera. So it's like, I got so confused that I was just like, oh shit, like, what am I supposed to be doing? And then I got back to, you know, to the root of it too. Like, I can be whoever I want at whatever capacity. Like, I choose that. I don't have to look or be like anybody else.
Right. And you don't have to choose.
Then you don't have to choose. Exactly.
You don't have to choose. And I think that is what we've been conditioned to believe, that we have to choose between these different parts of ourselves, when in reality, we don't have to. We can be all of these things simultaneously. Yeah. You know, we can marry all of these parts of ourselves to do meaningful work.
Yes.
You know, and I think that is, when I look at you and I look at the work that you're doing, I see that. I see all of who Anne-Marie is. I can see, you know, the expertise and the nightlife and the red carpets, but I also see the spirituality that you bring into it.
Thank you. Because that was always what I wanted. Because I felt like exactly what you're saying. Like I didn't have to choose, and people kept making me feel like I had to choose. And I felt like that's what has been happening since, for me and maybe many others, my whole fucking life, man. Like, let me fucking be.
Yep. That's it. You just said it. Like, we just need to let people be. We have to stop placing judgment. We have to stop putting people in boxes, you know, and making them think that they have to be this or that. Like, you can be this and that, you know, like, you don't have to choose. Just embrace every part of you, and then step out into the world in your fullness, you know, and because that is really what is going to change the world. We want people to come out here and just be who they are.
Exactly. And also for them to be able to be who they are authentically, but to be able to explore all the different passions inside of them. Like on Sunday, I was, I mean, nobody knows this, I'm sharing this too, but like I said earlier about the singing when I was in the choir at church, but I love to sing, and I haven't sang in a long time, and being now in more community of spiritually evolved, you know, individuals, there's a lot more of that. So I was at a singing circle on Sunday here in Venice Beach, and you know, I was singing with a shaman and singing with another chick that does real estate development, and you know, singing with a healer, and singing songs about Pachamama, and singing with drums, and I love this stuff. And
yes, and you can still do that and be at Art Basel, you know.
Exactly. And be unapologetic about it.
Yes.
Like I had to be, you know, I'm not drinking right now. I haven't drank in almost 3 months, and I was out with my client because we had to go to certain events, and I was out at these clubs, girl. It would be like 4:00 in the morning behind the DJ booth. And I'm like, I can't believe I'm here and I'm sober. And I thought, but this is kind of cool, but I can also go home because I'm dying because it's 4:00 in the morning.
And you're sober, so you feel it.
Exactly. So yeah, I feel like I'm in a really beautiful space right now as a woman, where I am at my age. And where I see myself going, and the things that I want to accomplish for the coming year, you know?
So let me ask you this, because you've had a very full life, even though you're still young, but you've been through a lot, you've seen a lot. What would you say is the greatest lesson you've learned so far, either in life in general or in business?
Oh, wow. Good question. The biggest lessons.
Or maybe it doesn't have to be the biggest lesson, but maybe, you know, a lesson, something that really stands out for you.
Nothing comes for free. That shit sucks. Nothing comes for free.
And I think that's a big lesson, because sometimes, especially women, I think, when we're presented with certain opportunities and we think that it's really, you know, that it's for our benefit, but there's always an ulterior motive behind those things.
Yeah.
Those opportunities.
And that sucks. And even when you're doing your best to align with like-minded, you just never know. And I think that you have to be very aware and you have to be cautious. So you can't be sleepy. And I hate to say it, but I really do believe that you got to be on. You got to be awake enough to be able to assess what's in front of you, because you never know what the other person's intention is. And as much as we all want to be these really intentional, ethical beings, there are posers everywhere.
Yeah, there are. And sometimes it's hard. They're hard to spot, so you really do have to have like that third eye open, like they say.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So who or what inspires you?
Who or what inspires me? I get really inspired by the individuals, much like yourself, who are out in the space of transformation and self-help and personal development, because I'm so passionate about that and I'd like to be doing more of that. So I'm constantly eager to learn. That inspires me, the yearn to learn more about being better.
Yeah. Yeah. What scares you?
Oh man, what scares me is becoming complacent and not being able to move around. I have a fear of having to be somewhere and not being able to move.
Yeah, I think that the last time we had dinner, that you shared that you just don't want to be tied down. You want to be this free spirit and be able to kind of just be a woman of the world.
Yeah, and I don't know what that looks like sometimes, because maybe my norm is that I am a little bit more nomadic than others, or that I live in certain places at certain times of the year. I've been trying to justify what I'm doing based on other people's opinions, because the last year has been about stability. And although I do believe that some people have the best intentions, I also believe that I cannot take advice from those who haven't lived the way I've lived or seen what I've seen, and we're still not evolved in that way. So I don't try to listen to those opinions, but I do try to listen to the ones from people that I know want to support me to get to the next level. Although I'm not even sure what if they know what that looks like for themselves. It's very tricky and scary sometimes, because I want, I feel like we all at whatever age need some type of support, as far as a mentor,
right?
Some type of guide. And I feel like I've had different ones that, like I mentioned earlier, like the alchemist, that have stepped in with the right message so that I can continue on my journey.
Right.
But I feel like there hasn't ever really been anyone that's just really been there. I feel like people come in and out, and they come in and out. So I feel like now, what does this look like for me, Anne-Marie? What is the next few years look like for you, knowing that you want to set a foundation, but does setting a foundation mean that you don't go anywhere? Does it mean that you are going to really dedicate the time to stay in one place and grow some roots, or plant some roots, right? To grow or plant. So,
well, maybe it's you redefining what foundation means. Maybe it's really stepping out of that box and saying, well, maybe my foundation doesn't require me to physically be somewhere, but just that I'm rooted, in who I want to become, and that I'm attracting the people and the experiences that are going to feed that and nurture that, so that I can grow in that direction. So I mean, so it could be that. I think that, but you continue asking the questions, because like you just mentioned a little while ago, when the student is ready, the teacher appears, right? So if you're asking these questions, soon enough, you're going to get the answer to it.
Right. And I appreciate you saying that too, because, that was mentioned to me quite some time ago when I was doing, I think I might have told you I was doing that coaching program. And
yes.
She said, what does home feel like? And, she said home doesn't necessarily need to feel like, you physically somewhere, adding to what you just said. So I'm still working myself around that, to be quite honest, because, I just got here on Wednesday night, and I mean, I got to keep it so real. Like, I'm already thinking about Singapore, and I'm like, oh yeah, because somebody wanted me to go look at a new project in Singapore, and I'm like, oh God, you know what I mean? Like,
Right.
I'm like, shit, Anne-Marie, stay in like, keep your mind in Los Angeles. So I don't know. It's just who I am, and maybe that's just never going to change. Maybe that's the charm of me.
Right. Yeah. And I think that you might have to stop trying to put yourself in that box where you feel like you have to be physically stable somewhere, because a part of that too stems from what we're led to believe, that we're supposed to have, one place that we call home, and we're supposed to set these roots, but that doesn't work for everyone, and so you probably just operate best the way that you do. I mean, it's a journey. So we never really know until we continue to ask those questions. And that's what you're doing. Just continue to follow your heart. Like, whatever your heart is telling you to do, your heart never steers you wrong.
I know, girl. And that's why I love you, because I love talking to you, because it's always like just, exactly that, the outcome is somebody stepping in for the answer or for some guidance that I need in that specific moment, which all of you have just heard about on this podcast. Too much for listening.
So listen, when it's all said and done, right, what do you want your legacy to be?
Oh man, my legacy. I want to be able to help build and help countries and develop countries and underprivileged people all around the world. I want to be doing more philanthropic, more raising awareness and going on missions.
Well, look, we could plan one together, honey.
Yeah,
absolutely. Get it popping. Because I think that the world is in need. It's unfortunate, the state of the world today, but I think that with people like yourself and people like me, and and all of the spiritualists who really believe we can make change just by shifting mindsets and being intentional and being kind. It's hard work, but it's possible.
Yeah, and I think we have to be realistic too. Like, we can't save the world, but we can definitely be a part of like helping shift it and change it with the little efforts that we put in, and all the other beautiful people around the world that are have the same intention.
Absolutely. I absolutely agree. And I just want to take this time to thank you. Thank you for joining me and for being on this week's episode. Thank you for the amazing dialogue and conversation, and just really being so open and transparent, not only about your journey, but about your life and about the path that you have taken and the path that has led you to where you are. So how can my listeners connect with Anne-Marie, with Anne-Marie Global, and how can they get to know a little bit more about who you are and the work that you do? Where can they find you?
Oh, thank you. Yeah, so if you guys want to follow me on Instagram, I'm at Anne-Marie Inc., which is ANNEMARIEINC. My website is anne-marieinc.com. I've got a consulting business which deals with a lot of international introductions and franchising and licensing, which is AMI Global, and that's amiglobalconsulting.com. So, for those of you out there that just want to connect and learn a little bit about me or just see how I can help you, those are the channels that you can follow me on. And Nancy, thank you so much for a great opportunity. And I'm so honored to have been able to do the podcast, and I can't wait to share it with the world.
Me either. I can't wait to see you. The next time you're in New York, we have to make time for each other.
For sure. Absolutely. Or you got to come here.
Well, yes, we're going to work on making that happen, because I've never been to LA. So that is a perfect reason for me to go visit you.
Perfect. We're gonna co-create, and we're gonna do something here, and that'll keep me grounded and keep me here a little longer.
Yeah, so I'm gonna start looking at my schedule, and I'm like, really, I want to plan something for this year. So,
okay. Sure.
So we'll make it happen. But thank you so much, honey, and we will chat soon.
Okay. Thank you.
Bye. This episode of the Empowerment Hour podcast has been brought to you by RMG Global. If you're interested in becoming a sponsor, kindly send an email to info@nancyarroyoruffin.com. And if you enjoyed this episode, please leave us a rating and leave us a review. Until next time, go out there and crush those goals.